Om Soham Tatvamasi. Om, you and I are one with the one universal God of all creation and no other. Jai Bhagavanji, victory to God the Beloved, that beloved universal I am that I am, which you are. Please be seated. You know, I'm not a performer. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not an inspirational speaker or anything of that kind. I'm an ordinary human being, just like you are. I'm an ordinary human being that's had something very extraordinary happen in my life. I died when I was 8 years old. And I was taken up into perfect final union with God. Like a drop of water going into the sea becomes the sea. And God asked me to come back here and do a work for Him. He told me that if I did agree to this, that I would forget all but a tiny thin thread of what had happened, and I would have to find my way back into perfect final union with Him. Like the drop of water goes back into the ocean, like the wave subsides back into the ocean, of my own works. Well, I didn't want to come back. Would you? And so I said, why, Father, should I go back there? There's suffering, sorrow, death, misery. Sure, there's beauty, but it's all overshadowed by all of these other things. No matter how beautiful your life is, no matter how wonderful and beautiful you are, you're going to get old and you're going to die. No matter how much you have, if you have 15 kids and you live to be 120 years old, you watch every one of your children die. Everything that's born dies. Everything that's put together is taken apart. Why would I want to go back there? And so He showed me. He showed me all of the suffering in the world the way He knows it. Now, how does He know it? He knows it in a way that you can't even know it. He knows your suffering in a way that you can't even know you're suffering. Why? Because you have built-in protections into your body. If you suffer enough, you black out. That's why when they torture people, they have to have adrenaline there and stuff like that to keep them awake, because they'll pass out and they won't feel the pain. I read that. I don't know that firsthand. But He showed me the suffering the way He knows it, without any buffers, without any protections, and just raw. All of the suffering in the world all at once. It's awesome and it's gruesome, beyond belief. We watched a movie the other night, and at the end of the movie it said there are over 2.5 million people who are being human trafficked and sold on the open market throughout the world. Talk about slavery. Why don't we hear about this slavery? You know, we hear about the slavery in the United States, which compared to this slavery was relatively civil, most of it. Not because the slave owners were such good people, but because they looked upon their slaves as assets. These people looked upon their slaves as things to be slaughtered. It's unbelievable. But I experienced this suffering, this immense, terrible, terrible suffering. And so I said, yes, I'll go back. And I came back. And I spent about 23, 24 years. Sometimes I say 20, sometimes I say 22, sometimes 23. Somewhere in that neighborhood. It's a little hard to nail it down because I spent most of my time first running away from trying to regain this state of being, this perfect final union, and then running towards it, and then running away from it, running towards it. Nearly became an alcoholic. Used to sit in my dark room that I had built in my garage and do my homework with a bottle of rum. My dad was an alcoholic. And then I met a man by the name of Fred Kimball, and he shook my hand and he said, you're in danger of becoming an alcoholic. You'll be an alcoholic by the time you're 23 if you don't change your ways. So I changed my ways. I did all the drugs there were to do. I didn't do heroin, I didn't do cocaine, I didn't do any of that destructive stuff. But I did them all. to run away. But God was always watching over me. And then one day, having taken, I'll not say what it is because I don't want to incriminate myself, I guess. Having taken a hallucinogenic drug in a rather large quantity and driven all the way down the coast to Self-Realization Fellowship, I and Tara were walking around Self-Realization Fellowship, and there was this beautiful monarch butterfly, big monarch butterfly, and I called to it, and it flew over and it sat on my hand and it looked at me. And I knew that was the end of my drug stuff. I knew that was it. That butterfly told me that it was time to quit. Now, the butterfly didn't talk to me. I wasn't hallucinating that this thing was going, no, it's just the look of this butterfly sitting on my hand, huge butterfly, looking into my eyes, and then gently just flew away. And I knew that had to be the end of the drug thing. I tried to run away in a lot of different ways because I just wanted to be an ordinary guy with an ordinary marriage, having some kids, having an ordinary job. I wanted to be a photographer. I loved photography. And have kids, grow old, and die like any ordinary human being. But it wasn't to be. Now, this is a long story, and it's way too long to tell you here. I wrote it down in this book. It's called The Holy Book of Destiny. The Holy Book of Destiny. Don't confuse that with the Book of Destiny. It's the Holy Book of Destiny by Maitreya, the friend of all souls. So if you want to go to Amazon and spend a few bucks and get it, do that. I can't go through it all here. There's a lot to it. But eventually I regained this state of perfect final union with God. The drop of water that I was went back into the ocean. The waves subsided back into the ocean, and there I was again. And so God then said, go back and finish what we started. And I was thinking to myself at the time, we're not going back. I'm going back. But then I thought, no, we are one. God was going back. God was going back down into this finite body to live an ordinary life and suffer and sorrow like everybody else, get sick like everybody else, get prostate cancer like not everybody else gets, and then die. Because and I knew this was happening, and so I was overwhelmed by this sense of love and compassion for all souls. And so I said to God, I made a vow. I just call it a vow of compassion. I said, Father, I will never again enter into perfect final union with you until I have seen every last one of these souls home into perfect final union with you before me. But I will go back and I will live out this life in this body. And at the end of this life, I will ascend into the spirit realm, the spiritual realm, close to oneness with you, but not in perfect final oneness with you. And I will live in the heart of every soul, guiding every soul ever closer, homeward, to perfect final union with you. Until I have seen the last soul step across the line into perfect final union with you. And then I will take my perfect final union with you. Oh! If I'd only known what I was saying. And I knew what I was saying at the time. But if I'd only known the implications of it, I don't know if I could have done it. I'm not a hero. There are times when I cry. Really seriously cry. Because I want to go home. I want to go back into perfect final union with God. I want to rejoin my true self. I don't want to be apart. I don't want to be in everybody's hearts. But that's the human side of me. Spiritually, I would never shrink from that vow ever. As spirit, I would never shrink from that vow. As a soul, I would never shrink from that vow. And I don't. But as a human being, you should hear me flail around. You should hear me cry. And you should hear me say, God, please, please, let me out of this. Please, take me home into perfect final union with you. Can't you just give these people... And then, see, there comes something else. Because can't you just give these people? Now, I haven't said it, but what happened is when I made this vow of compassion, God did something amazing. Oh, God always does something amazing. But He did something more amazing than usual. After 2,000 years, approximately, God made a new covenant with man. And He said, whosoever will receive the holy initiation, or the true enlightenment of the holy initiation, I say it different ways because this was said in God's words, not in man's words. Whoever will receive the true enlightenment of the friend's holy initiation, I am the friend, and will follow him to the end of his life, I will give that soul what the friend has sacrificed for the sake of all souls. Namely, perfect final union. With me, God's talking. With me. And perfect total freedom. Beyond all eternity. And so, that is God's new covenant. If you receive my holy initiation, you receive His new covenant. And if you fulfill it by following me to the end of your life, then God will give you what I sacrificed for the sake of all souls. You know, it's funny. My grandfather used to tell me over and over, son, there's no free lunch. Somewhere, somehow, somebody has to pay. Somewhere, somehow, somebody has to pay. That's the fallacy of socialism. That's the fallacy of communism. Oh, in principle, it's beautiful. We all share the wealth. You know, I read an article, very interesting, about a teacher who was teaching his class about socialism and communism. And what he said is, here's what we're going to do. We're going to average everybody's grade in the class, and that's the grade that everybody gets. So those who don't study, and those who study hard, will all get the same grade. Well, on the first test, everybody got a B. But then the people thought to themselves, wait a minute, I'm out here pounding my brains out on these books, and these guys are doing nothing. They're out drinking. Why should I be pounding my brains out? So on the following test, they got a C. Because the average went down. The test after that, they got a D. And the final thing of the class was that they all failed. You see, somebody has to pay the price. Jesus paid the price for the relief of sins by giving His life. That was the price. You know, that was the price of admission. What I did was I paid the price of giving up my own perfect final union with God, of giving up my own perfect final union with God, so that every other soul could have it before me. Now, I want it. I haven't renounced it. God knows. But I'm the last one. I'm the guy that gets to turn out the light. You know, they say, the last man out of the building, please turn off the light. I'm the guy that gets to turn off the light when it's all done. I've put myself at the end of the line of all these souls going home into perfect final union with God. And there are times when I hate it. And there are times when I love it. Because I'm a divine spirit in a human body, with a human mind and a human personality. And as a ordinary human being, I hate it. Why did I do this? I rile, I scream sometimes. But in spirit, I know it's the right thing. And so God said, this guy, this spirit, this being, this soul, paid the price for all you guys. See? He paid the price for all you guys. He came in with $1,000 billion trillion and said, here, I give you my entire fortune so all these people can have something to eat. Only more. Because there's nothing as precious as perfect final union with God. Oh, if I could convince God to give all of you perfect final union with Him and let me off the hook, believe me, I would do it. I'm not that big a hero. I did what I did because of my love and compassion for the suffering souls of this world. And God did what He did because I paid the price. And because of my love and compassion for the suffering souls of this world. This is not esoteric. This is not some bizarre, wacko philosophy or theology or religion. It's very simple. Somebody has to pay the price. Jesus paid the price so that you can have your sins relieved. And you can. And you can go to heaven. I paid the price so that you can go beyond heaven into perfect final union with God, your source, yourself, and your being. And perfect final union with God is higher above heaven than heaven is above hell. Not that heaven's a bad place. Heaven's a wonderful place. You see, when I died that first time, I went through hell, and then I ascended into heaven. And then from there I went into perfect final union with God. I went through hell and burned off all of the sins, karmas that I had acquired. Not just until I was 8 years old, but throughout my whole spiritual history. And then I got to go to heaven and enjoy the bliss and the beauty and the awesome, well, I can't even express it, bliss of heaven. And I thought that was about as great as it could possibly get. And then God took me into perfect final union with Him, and heaven was, well, it's like the difference of going to the you know, if you're really hungry, you go to Carl's Jr. and you get a hamburger, you go, God, this is good. Then somebody takes you to the best restaurant in the whole county, and you go, that wasn't very good, this is good. It's not that the hamburger wasn't good, it's that this is so much better. And so there I was in this perfect final union with God. And I gave it up. I paid the price. I'm not Jesus. I don't pretend to be Jesus. I don't pretend to be Buddha or Muhammad, Abraham, Moses, Rama, Krishna, Vishnu. The only way we're kind of connected is the same way these fingers are connected to this hand. We're all part of God. We're all part of God. And so, in that sense, without any blasphemy or heresy or insult or demeaning of any kind, Abraham, Moses, Rama, Krishna, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, all of God's mercies are brothers and sisters because they're all part of the same hand. And I'm part of that hand. I just haven't ascended into the spiritual realm. When I die to this world, I will live in the hearts of every soul. That's my promise to God, and God accepted it. So if you look for me in your heart, you'll find me there now. But it may be more limited now, because I still have this ego. I still have this personality. But once I'm released from this ego and this personality, I will be there 100%. And anybody who calls on me, I will become active within that person's heart. Now, how do I say active? How do I say active? Because God has given us free will. See, this hand represents not only all of God's mercies, but also the freedom that God has put in every soul. Free will, free choice, self-determinism, individual freedom, and absolute, inescapable personal responsibility. That's in every soul. This is the communist symbol of oppression. This is the Maitreyan symbol of liberation. You see? And why do I say you have to call upon me to become active in the secret inner sanctuary of your heart, that central place of your being? Because if I were to be there without you calling upon me, it would be called possession. And it would violate the principle of free will. If you want me, you have to call upon me. If you don't call upon me, I'll be there, but I'll be quiescent. I'll be there, but I'll be inactive. And I will stay inactive I will not impose myself upon you or upon any soul, either while I'm alive in this body or when I give up this body and go into the spiritual realm. I will not impose myself upon you. That would be a violation of this principle of freedom. Free will, free choice, self-determinism, individual freedom, and absolute inescapable personal responsibility. You are responsible. If you want to call upon me, you call upon me. Hold my presence within your mind and call out within your heart, Bhagavanji, 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 and I will become active within your heart. Not to take over. When you tell me to not be active within your heart, I won't be active within your heart. All you have to do is say, that's it. Enough. And I leave you alone until you call upon me again. You see, it's your heart. It's your life. It's your responsibility. But when I leave this world, I will be present in abundance in the heart of every soul on earth and beyond. This is what we call, and I wish we had a different name, this is what we call our religion. The term religion means that which binds together. But this is what binds us together. You're her sister because you're bound together by your holy initiation and by your religion. You're his brother because you're bound together by holy initiation and God's new covenant and your religion. Now, there are people in this world who believe that their way can be the only way. That's sort of like saying my race can be the only race. Are the chocolate cookies my grandmother bakes are the only chocolate cookies that can exist on the earth? And so people will say, this is blasphemy. It's not blasphemy. We love, honor, cherish, respect, revere, and even worship all of God's mercies to man as expressions of God's compassion and mercy. And that includes Rama, Krishna, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Buddha. I should go Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and all of the rest. Because we're all part of the same hand. And I'm part of that hand. I'm one of those fingers. And the thumb does not contradict the first finger. And the first finger does not contradict the second finger, or the third finger, or the fourth finger, does it? And by the same reasoning, Buddha doesn't contradict Jesus. Muhammad doesn't contradict Buddha. Moses doesn't contradict Krishna. We're part of the same hand. We each have a different gift to bring to humanity. We each have a different mercy to bring to humanity that's suited to the time and place in which God sets us forth. God set me forth in this time because very close to the time of my birth in 1943, humanity, with all of its genius, figured out a way to destroy itself. Now, before that, we could, bomb a city and create a firestorm that would kill thousands or even millions of people. But when we developed the atomic bomb, we did something different. We suddenly let the genie out of the bottle, and now we can destroy ourselves utterly and absolutely. We can create a firestorm that will result in a nuclear winter that will kill every living thing on this planet that isn't 5 miles underground. Those things 5 miles underground are kind of weird looking. But they're the only things that are going to survive. So, as God brought forth Abraham in the time when Abraham was needed, and Moses in the time when Moses was needed, and Jesus in the time when Jesus was needed, and Muhammad in the time when Muhammad was needed, God brought me forth, or sent me forth, in this time to bring about universal salvation and liberation. And if we're successful, if by the slimmest chance we're successful, to secure the continued survival of humanity. If we're not successful, nobody will ever know it, because there'll be nobody to write about it. And if there's any remnants of it left anywhere, there'll be nobody to read it. Humanity will just disappear from the universe. Oh, there may be some remnant someplace that'll start over, and it'll take 50 million years to build back up to an intelligent species. But we don't even know that. So that's why God set me forth in this particular period of time. It's because we've developed this evil genius by which we can destroy all living things on this planet. And we're coming very close. Ahmadinejad mistakenly believes that the way to bring forth the fifth Mahdi is to create a Holocaust, an Armageddon, with blood running in the streets, and then the fifth Mahdi will come back. He's wrong. He's absolutely wrong. That's not what it's all about. Everybody wants to destroy the planet. The Christians, God bless them, are out there praying for Armageddon. We don't need Armageddon. We don't need Armageddon. What we need is to secure the continued survival of humanity. How do we do that? We do that by propagating a universal salvation and liberation. We're not going to deny Jesus. We're not going to deny heaven. Listen, just because we live in Los Angeles, does the fact that California exists, does that deny Los Angeles? No, as a matter of fact, it affirms it. And just because we live in Los Angeles and in California, does that invalidate the fact that we live in the United States? No. It just affirms it all the more. There's always something beyond. Now, I don't know what could possibly be beyond perfect final union with God. It's the end point. It's the beginning. It's the alpha and the omega of our journey. It's where we begin and it's where we end. It's the highest that there is. So high that it makes heaven, as blissful and beautiful and wonderful as it is, seem like, well, it's higher above heaven than heaven is above hell. And hell's way down there. So, excuse me. So the point is that this gift is here for you. I paid the price. Well, I paid part of the price. I mean, I actually paid the price for your perfect final union with God. But I would be remiss in my duty if I didn't tell you that there's a price for you to pay too. It's not a bad price, and it's certainly not the price that I paid. It's a beautiful price. It's a wonderful price. You see, God has said that what you receive, you must give in order to have it. And when you receive His new covenant through my holy initiation, then you are duty-bound, morally, ethically, and spiritually, to offer it to others. You know, as I said, offer it to others. I didn't say impose it upon others. I didn't say take up the sword and ride out and say, you will be a Maitreya or you will die. I didn't say pick up the gun and point it at the person and say you will be a Maitreya or you'll die or your children will die. This is insanity. Freedom. Freedom. In fact, I've set forth I guess you would call it a command, that you may not use force, threat, coercion, intimidation, bribery, violence, or deception to give this new covenant to any soul. Those 7 things are out. So what is that left? What's left? Well, I could say, I want you to go out and sell it to people. Oh, I want people to have it. I want people to have it more than anything on earth, because I am absolutely convinced beyond the shadow of a doubt that it is the spread of this new covenant throughout the world that is the only hope for avoiding a nuclear holocaust and destroying all life on this planet. Why? Because something happens to you when you receive this new covenant. Nobody can define exactly what it is. You can't put out a list and say, this will happen to you, that will happen to you, a little checklist. But something happens to you. You now have a deeper, wider pipeline to God. Through me, in your heart. And so long as you fulfill God's new covenant by following me to the end of this life. And I know people are going to make a very scary thing out of that. Don't you know? What about Jim Jones? What about Jim Jones? I don't even look like Jim Jones. What about, who's the guy in Texas?
Koresh.
David Koresh. I definitely don't look like David Koresh. And I don't preach what David Koresh preached. Or what Jim Jones preached. Or any of those people. Yeah, it's a little scary to follow somebody. But as you have freedom in your heart, as a soul, you can stop following anytime you want. In fact, I have made a rule. Yes, I do make rules. Just like the 7 things you can't do. I made a rule that anytime you receive a direction or instruction or a command of any kind to do something, if it offends you, truly offends your morals, your ethics, or the way you understand our religion, which is called Adhyatma Yoga Dharma, or God's eternal universal religion, then you are duty-bound to politely say, I'm sorry, I cannot follow that because my heart believes it to be wrong. Now, please don't come to me and say, well, my heart tells me that it's absolutely immoral and unethical for me to have to wash the dishes. Please, don't abuse this. Because I'm very serious about this. But those 2 things, the 7 things you may not do to give this to someone else, and the fact that you must refuse to go along with something that you find morally, ethically repugnant or wrong, or that you believe somebody's asking you to do something that is contrary to what is necessary to follow me to God. In other words, the spirit and the letter of your way of life, let's call it, or religion. And so, your price is simply to go, here. Would you like this? Don't sell it, tell it. Don't sell it, tell it. If you go out and try to sell this religion, I'm offended. And God is offended. Do you have to sell air? Huh?
No.
Do you have to sell water? I mean, you can sell bottled water, you can bottle it, but it's still water. You don't have to sell air or water. All you have to do is tell people where to get it. And it becomes ridiculous when you start trying to sell water beside the river. Here's the river going by, and you go, how'd you like to buy some water? No, thank you. I think I'll just stick my head in the river and take a drink. Right? So don't be selling water by the river. Don't sell it, tell it. And what I want you to do, it took many, many years for people to convince me or trick me into writing this book. What they did is they tricked me. They did. I thought that it was just going to be some kind of a little e-book, and it turned out to be this book on Amazon. The Holy Book of Destiny. Maitreya, the Friend of All Souls. That's me. So what I want you to do if somebody says, oh, I'm interested in what you're doing, is to say, wonderful. Go to Amazon, spend $12 plus shipping, buy this book, read it cover to cover, so that you know everything that you're getting into, so that you know beyond a doubt what it is you're dealing with. And if you get to the very last paragraph of this book, which says, here ends the Holy Book of Destiny, and you say, yes, this is right. Not only right for me, but right for the world, then somebody here will talk to you. But we're not going to try to sell it to you. We're going to just tell it to you. And that's what I'm asking you all to do. Don't sell it, tell it. Enough with all of this, all of these courses about how to trick people into your religion that you find out there. Get them into small groups, get them into photography clubs and things like that. That is deception. You can't use it. Which one is deception? Force, threat, coercion, intimidation, bribery, violence, or deception. It's number 7. Can't use it. Don't do it. So don't sell it. Just tell it. But you are obligated to tell it. Will people sneer at you? Will they laugh at you? Will they call you names? Will they maybe dissociate themselves from you? Will the bigots of this world throw rocks and stones at you? Yes, they will. Catch every single rock the bigots throw at you and use it to build our way of life, our religion, our church in this world. And when they cease to suppress you, when they cease to oppress you, rise and rise again like the phoenix from the ashes until the lambs have become lions and the rule of darkness is no more. And for that we need a community. Not a community to rule over you, but a community by which you can join your hearts and minds together. You know, if you take one stick and you break it, it's very easy to break, isn't it? Try putting like 20 sticks together and see if you can break them. They're unbreakable. Now, people have used that to promote what's called fascism. It's a bastardization of the principle. The principle is that if you stand together, you are strong. You're all individuals. Don't give up your individuality. Individual freedom. Here it is right here. Free will, free choice, self-determinism, individual freedom. Right here. Don't give this up. Don't give up any of these. But when you join your hearts and minds together of your own free will and self-determinism as individuals, you become a powerful force to bring about the continued survival of humanity and to bring about this universal salvation and liberation. I hope I don't sound like I'm trying to sell this to you. Oh, I believe in it. I am convinced of it. I know it because I was there. I don't even really believe it. I know it. I was there twice. And I came back here twice. So that you could have what I gave up. I paid the price. You have to pay a small price. By walking up to another person and going, hey brother, hey sister, read this Holy Book of Destiny. And if you like what you find in there, by the time you get to the last page, my card's in the back. Call me. And I will see to it that you get God's new covenant through Maitreya's holy initiation. And if you don't like what you see in there, use it for a doorstop or go give it to your worst enemy. Or throw it away. Whatever you want to do. It's yours. So, there's been too much, I mean, we want this, you know, when you have something that's so precious to you, that it's more precious than anything else on earth. More precious even than life itself. You want other people to have it. And we can get too pushy. We can get too aggressive It's like if somebody comes up to you and says, I really love chocolate pie. And you reach down and you grab a chocolate pie and start shoving it in his mouth. He's going to go, get away from here, get away from here. But if you say, there's a really great piece of chocolate pie over there on the table. There's a fork next to the pie. Go eat it if you want to. Then you're operating as free men and free women. Don't sell it. Don't demean my religion. Don't demean my way of life. Don't demean my sacrifices by selling it like a can of beans or an encyclopedia door to door. Just tell it. Don't worry. Those whose hearts are in the right place for it, those who, let's say, vibrate to the right frequency, if you want to be spooky or weird about it, those whose lives are in such a place that this is what they need now, and they recognize it, they will come to you if you tell it. In fact, I don't really want you to even tell anybody more than the bare essentials of our religion. That God has, after 2,000 years, God has made a new covenant with man in our day, through Maitreya, the friend of all souls, whereby you can have perfect final union with Him as a drop of water entering the ocean becomes the sea. And if somebody says, well, tell me all about it, you say, go to Amazon, buy the Holy Book of Destiny. It's going to cost you about $15, $16, under $20. Buy the Holy Book of Destiny. Read it from cover to cover. And when you get to that last paragraph where it says, here ends the Holy Book of Destiny, if you say, this is what I've been looking for all my life, I can receive this new covenant, and I will follow this man. Because if you read this book, you're going to find out what it means. I can follow this man, this mercy that God has sent to man in this age. Then you come. And if you say it's all BS, if you say I don't believe it, if you say it's blasphemy, if you want to take the bigot's route about it, throw it away. Or like my best friend from 50 years ago did, he shredded it. Because he's a born-again Christian. That's what he thought he had to do. God bless him. God be with him. And God be with you. So this is all I can say to you. I didn't plan this tonight. I didn't think this out. In fact, I was going to talk about something else. But this is what God has moved me to say to you. Now, if what I've said has touched you in any way, go to Amazon, order the Holy Book of Destiny by Maitreya, the friend of all souls. Somebody out there is saying, what do you mean, the friend of all souls? I didn't name myself that. God said, in the Christian religion, they say, no greater love hath any man for his brother than that he would lay down his life, or that he would lay down his life for his friend. There is a greater love. I gave up being the ocean to come back here and suffer as an ordinary man and eventually die as an ordinary man so that you could have perfect final union with God. Not you in the abstract, but you personally. You and you and you. And every soul could have that. Now, I don't like comparing one love with another. But you have to say that is a very amazing thing that happened. I don't know that I can take credit for it. Because there are times when I just say, can't you please let me go? But what's new about that? Jesus, when he was on the cross, said, Father, why have you forsaken me? So long as we have human personalities and bodies, we're going to make these cries. But in spirit, I don't mean it any more than Jesus meant it. So I'm here. I've been here for quite a while, 35 years, around there. I'm still here, fighting prostate cancer. So far, doing well. But I don't know where that's going to go, and neither does anyone else. I mean, I hope I'm going to be around another 20 years. But it could be a year or 2 years, it could be tomorrow. You know, people do have heart attacks, things happen. This body is no more a super body than anybody else's body. When it goes, it goes. I would like to have you come and join me while I can instruct you in person. While I can impart to you the spirit of this way of life, as well as the letter. But that's up to God and up to you. It is now in your hands. I have told you. I hope you don't think I've sold you. But I've told you. I've told you the truth and nothing but the truth. The whole truth is too big for me to tell here tonight. The whole truth may even be too big for anyone to tell because it won't fit into words exactly. But I have told you the truth and nothing but the truth. And I've told you a lot of the whole truth. So, the ball, as they say, is now in your court. If you think that this is a bunch of garbage, hit delete. If you think that I'm a phony, hit delete. Please don't waste your time sending me bigoted emails. I've seen them all. I've read them all. I have never seen such hostility, such violence, and such bigotry as is coming out of people who are supposed to be following the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ. Don't do it. You demean yourself. Don't waste your time trying to hack me down to your size, because all it does is demean you and demean your religion. Jesus wouldn't approve of that. And he doesn't approve of that. So I'm here in Playa del Rey, California. You can come. We can sit down and we can have a cup of coffee or a cup of espresso and talk it over. But I don't want to talk to you until you have read every page of this book. My life is growing short. I'll be 69 years old in March. My life's growing short. I have spent literally hundreds of hours talking to people who came to the end of our conversation and said, well, I really don't believe in this. I have my own way. Have a nice day. I don't have time to do that anymore. So what I say now is, before any Maitreyan will speak with you in depth about our way of life, our religion, or will give you God's new covenant through my holy initiation, you have to read the book. You have to read the book. 'Cause I'm telling you, I didn't mince words. I didn't pull punches. If this book doesn't offend you, then maybe you should be with me. If this book excites you, then you absolutely should be with me. It's not going to be what you picture it out to be. It never is. It never is, except in the movies. And we all know that they're phony. It's going to be rougher than you thought. And you're not always going to like it. And I'm not always going to like you, and you're not always going to like me. But as long as we have this common bond of my holy initiation and God's new covenant, and our holy cause, purpose, and mission of creating a divine critical mass and bringing forth the age of universal God's pure divine truth on earth for the universal salvation and liberation of all souls, and to secure the continued survival of humanity, then we can work together. I hope I've made a point to you tonight. I hope that without any flim or flam, without any blame, without any jive, that you understand what's going on here. You will either say yes or you'll say no. Read the Holy Book of Destiny. At the end of it, you will either say yes or you'll say no. But if you say yes, then contact us and sit down with the Maitreya. You'll find that all Maitreyans are really like myself. They're pretty ordinary people. But they have that strength of God and compassion and purpose and cause and mission within them. And if you find one that tries to sell you my religion, if you find one that tries to sell you my way of life, drop me a note because I want to sit down and counsel that person. Do not sell it, simply tell it. And if you tell it, those who are right for it will come, and those who are not will stay away. Maybe you're one of those who's right for it. Read the Holy Book of Destiny, and you will certainly find out. Om Soham Tatvamasi. Om, you and I are one with the one universal God of all creation and no other. Jai Bhagwanji. Victory to God the beloved, that beloved universal I am, that I am, which you are.